You know, it's a curious thing. People keep saying, we live in the age of information. And it sounds so grand, doesn't it? As if the more data we collect, the wiser we become. But I'd say we live not in the age of information, but in the age of interruption, a constant hum, a swarm of voices tugging at the hem of your mind. We used to imagine wars as things fought out there, on fields, with flags and drums. But now the battlefield has moved inward. It's become invisible. The war is for your attention, that subtle, precious beam of awareness by which you experience the whole universe. And everyone wants it. The advertisers, the politicians, the algorithms, they're all little fishermen, casting their nets not for your body, but for that flicker of you that looks and listens. And the marvelous thing is, you can't see it happening, because the capture of attention doesn't come with shackles and chains. It comes with choice. It says, look here. It's only a click. Stay just a little longer. You don't want to miss this, do you? And so we give ourselves away, one tap at a time, in perfectly voluntary servitude. Now, don't misunderstand me, there's nothing wicked about it. The universe has always been playing this game. The leaves glitter to catch the eye of the bee. The peacock fans its feathers to mesmerize the mate. Life seduces itself into awareness. So, the glittering of your screen is only nature continuing her old tricks in digital clothing. But here's the question. Do you know you're being courted? Because that's the difference between play and possession. When you're aware that you're dancing, you're free. When you forget, you're a puppet. Attention, what a marvelous thing. The most intimate act there is. It is the way the universe looks at itself through your eyes. Yet, when you forget this, attention becomes a leash. The same energy that can reveal truth can also trap you in illusion. You see, whoever directs your attention directs your world. Because the world you know is not made of atoms, it's made of noticing. And so, the invisible war is not really about propaganda or ideology or who controls the media. It's about who controls the lens through which you perceive reality. And here is the delicious paradox. No one truly can. They can only distract you long enough for you to think they can. Because awareness itself cannot be captured. It's like trying to grab a handful of light. The tighter you squeeze, the more it escapes. So, when you feel torn by the noise, the constant buzzing of alerts, the endless scroll of outrage and desire, pause for a moment. Listen not to the message, but to the hum beneath it. That hum is you, the witnessing awareness, the silence from which all this clamor arises. You are not a soldier in this war. You are the field upon which it's fought. And when you see that, you realize the battle is, in a sense, imaginary, a dance of shadows across the mirror of consciousness. The trick, you see, is not to fight back, but to wake up. For the moment you notice the game, you're no longer in it, you're watching it. And that's the first and most subversive act of freedom in the modern world, to simply notice that your attention is yours. So, the battlefield is invisible because it was never out there. It was always you. Now, let's look a little closer at how this whole curious operation works, this subtle art of capturing the mind. You see, the mind loves movement. It is forever chasing something, the next idea, the next sound, the next vibration. It's a monkey leaping from branch to branch, screeching, "What's next? What's next?" And so, whoever offers it another branch to grasp has it by the tail. The world has discovered that the most profitable thing you can harvest is not gold, nor oil, nor data, but attention. Because attention is the currency of consciousness. And if you can keep a person's attention, you can make them believe, buy, obey, or despair, whatever you like. But this isn't new. Priests have been doing it with incense and hymns, politicians with flags and fear, lovers with glances and silence. What's new is the speed, the precision, the algorithmic seduction that knows you better than you know yourself. Now, there's a mechanism behind all this beautifully simple, terribly effective. It works upon three ancient hooks, the same that the Buddha called the poisons of the mind: craving, aversion, and ignorance. First, craving. You could have more, it whispers. More followers, more news, more pleasure, more security. The bait glitters with promise, but the hook is hidden in the desire itself. Then, aversion. You must avoid this. They're wrong. Be afraid. Nothing glues the mind so firmly as outrage. It feels alive when it hates. The flame of fear lights up the whole nervous system, and we call that being informed. And finally, ignorance, not stupidity, you understand, but forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of the watcher behind the thoughts, the listener behind the noise. The moment you forget that, you're hooked, because now there is only reaction, and reaction is the puppet string of the universe. So, the machine doesn't force you. It seduces you by showing you your own reflection, shinier, faster, angrier, prettier. And you, enchanted by your reflection, lean closer until the mirror becomes a window and the window becomes a prison. Yet, the great joke is this: the prison door was never locked. You can step out at any time, but you don't, because you're afraid you'll miss something. My dear friends, you will always miss something. That's the beauty of it. The world is infinite, and you are finite. You can never swallow infinity whole, but you can taste it, here, now, in whatever is before you. So, the mechanism that captures your mind is not evil, it's mechanical. It simply runs because you fuel it with your attention. Turn off the fuel, and the machine grinds to a halt. It's like fire, dangerous when unconscious, warming when understood. Once you see how craving and fear pull the strings, you can laugh, not the cynical laugh of bitterness, but the laugh of recognition. Ah, you say, there it is again, the old game. And in that laughter, the spell breaks. You cannot be manipulated when you no longer take the bait. You watch the desire rise and fall, and you smile, because you know that what you truly are cannot be lured or frightened. It is the space in which all lures and fears appear. And that, you see, is the beginning of freedom. To know the mechanism and yet not be moved by it. You see, my friends, when we speak of attention, we are not talking about something small like focusing on a task or keeping your eyes on the road. No. We are speaking of something holy. Attention is not merely a tool of the mind, it is the mind. It is the pulse of awareness itself, the lens through which the entire cosmos looks at its own reflection. When you turn your attention to a thing, a leaf trembling in the wind, the face of a lover, the hum of the city, you are not merely observing, you are creating. The world doesn't truly exist for you until you notice it. A flower unlooked at has no color. Sound, unheard, is only vibration. The universe blooms into being wherever you place your gaze. Now, isn't that extraordinary? You think of yourself as a small creature looking out upon a vast universe. But really, the act of looking brings the universe to life. So, when someone steals your attention, they are not merely borrowing your time, they are, in a sense, borrowing your power to create worlds. That's why attention is sacred. It's the currency of creation, the breath of consciousness. And in the modern world, this sacred energy is traded like pocket change. People spend it as if it were infinite, scattering it across 10,000 trivialities, a flicker here, a headline there, never realizing they are pouring the nectar of the gods into plastic cups. When your attention is divided, so are you. You become like a light refracted through broken glass, scattered, uncertain, easily bent by every passing shadow. But when you gather that light, when you rest it gently upon one thing, not as a strain but as a caress, it burns with such clarity that illusion cannot survive. That's what the sages meant when they said, "Be still and know." They didn't mean stiffen your body or suppress your thoughts. They meant allow your attention to settle like dust in a sunbeam until the world reveals itself not as a battlefield, but as a dance. Now, notice something delightful. The advertisers, the influencers, the preachers, they all want your attention because they sense, even dimly, that it's divine. Nobody fights for what's worthless. They crave your gaze because your gaze gives life. You make things real simply by seeing them. But the wonder is, once you understand this, the power returns to you. You begin to choose what deserves your sacred glance. You may find yourself turning away from noise, from conflict, from endless commentary, not because you're retreating, but because you're recognizing your own worth. The quiet act of noticing with care is prayer in its purest form. Whether you're watching raindrops on a window or the rise and fall of your breath, you are worshiping not a God above, but the miracle of awareness within. So guard your attention, not jealously, but lovingly. For where your attention goes, your reality grows. If you sow it in fear, your world will bloom with phantoms. If you offer it in love, everything you touch will reveal its beauty. That is why attention is sacred, because it is the bridge between the infinite and the particular, the eternal and the momentary, the unseen and the known. To attend is to bless. And in a world that is constantly shouting for your eyes, your ears, your time, the most radical act of all is to give your attention deliberately, like a lover's gaze, not a reflex. When you truly see this, you realize you were never powerless. The universe moves wherever you look, and so the wisest thing you can do is look with love. We come now to one of the grandest illusions of all, the belief that you are somehow apart from what you watch. You see, from childhood we've been taught to picture ourselves as little observers, eyes behind windows, peering out upon a vast and alien universe. We speak as though there were me, here inside this skull, and everything else out there, rolling past like scenery on a cosmic stage. But what if the watcher and the watched are not two things? What if this division, this me in here and world out there, is only a trick of grammar, a habit of speech, a mirror, forgetting that it is reflecting? When you look at a sunset, do you really think the beauty is out there in the sky, or is it also in here, in the shimmering sense of awe that arises in you? Can you separate the colors from the consciousness that beholds them? Can you divide the taste of tea from the awareness of tasting? The truth, dear friends, is that you are not watching the world. You are the world watching itself. The eye through which you see the stars is the same eye through which the stars see themselves. Now, this is where our invisible battlefield takes a curious turn. Those who wish to control you depend upon your belief in separation. They whisper, there are enemies, there are strangers, there are threats. They show you divisions, political, racial, ideological, because a divided self is easy to steer. The secret, you see, is that fear needs distance. Only when you imagine yourself apart can you be manipulated. For if you knew, truly knew, that the other and the self are woven of the same fabric, all fear would dissolve like mist at dawn. When you stand before the mirror, you recognize your reflection as yourself. But when you look at the world, you forget. You think you are seeing them, politicians, influencers, villains, heroes, yet all the while it is your own consciousness dancing in countless disguises. That's why the game of control works so well. Because we've forgotten that what's being controlled and what's doing the controlling are the same process, the same energy in different masks. It's like the left hand trying to outwit the right, or a wave pretending it's not the sea. And here's the great cosmic joke. The moment you see this, the whole illusion collapses. The puppeteer and the puppet vanish together. There's only the play of awareness, a self-enjoying, self-exploring universe pretending to lose itself so that it may rediscover itself again. When you feel anger at them, pause and look. Who is this they? Where does it end? And you begin. You will find the boundary wavers like heat over a desert road. The more closely you examine it, the more it disappears. Now, seeing this doesn't mean you stop acting in the world. It means you act with a lighter touch, like a dancer who knows the floor is moving too. You may still speak your truth, still resist injustice, still express love, but you'll do so as the ocean moves its waves, effortlessly, without the strain of believing itself divided. So long as you cling to the notion of a separate watcher, you remain the perfect target for fear, for manipulation, for distraction. But the instant you realize that the watcher and the watched arise together like front and back, in and out, sound and silence, the spell is broken. Then the invisible battlefield is revealed for what it truly is, a mirror hall of consciousness, endlessly reflecting itself, fighting only its own shadows. And when you laugh, really laugh at that, not cynically but joyfully, you'll see that you were never trapped at all. The watcher and the watched were just the universe, playing hide and seek in plain sight. You see, the old sages of India had a beautiful word for illusion, Maya. They never meant it as something evil or false in the sense of a lie. Maya is the play of appearances, the shimmer of sunlight on water. The dream, the universe dreams in order to know itself. Now, we have built a new kind of Maya, a digital one, a web of images, words, numbers, signals, all flickering in endless motion. And it is marvelous, truly marvelous, for never before has humankind been able to mirror its own consciousness on such a scale. The whole of civilization now hums in the palm of your hand. But there's the rub. You forget that the images are not the world. They are reflections of the world, rearranged into patterns of light and noise. The stream of information is not reality, it is the dream of reality, woven by the collective mind. And what a fascinating dream it is. Scroll long enough and you will find gods and monsters, love and hatred, birth and apocalypse, everything the old mythmakers once told around fires, now retold through pixels. It is the same human theater, only faster, brighter, louder. Yet the danger lies not in the dream itself, but in forgetting that it is a dream. The moment you mistake the flicker for the flame, you become hypnotized. You begin to live inside the symbols, the commentary, the opinions, all those endless ripples that dance upon the surface of awareness. The digital realm feeds upon your identification. It says, be this, react to that, join the fight, prove your worth. It keeps you circling in ever narrowing loops of emotion and thought, not because it hates you, but because it needs your energy to exist. You see, Maya has always needed attention to dance. The ancient sky was meaningless until a human looked up and saw constellations. The ocean was just motion until someone wrote the word wave. And now our digital Maya whirls faster and faster because billions of eyes never look away. But here is the secret, the sages whispered, the same one hidden beneath all this technology. The world of appearances is meant to shimmer. Its beauty lies precisely in its impermanence. When you watch a movie, you know the characters aren't real, but you weep anyway, and that's the art of it. So the wise approach is not to renounce the digital dream, but to wake within it, to realize that the scrolling, the messaging, the endless transmission are part of the same old cosmic drama. You can enjoy it, even play in it, without mistaking it for who you are. Maya, when forgotten, enslaves. Maya, when remembered, enlightens. Every flicker of your screen is a miniature universe, appearing and vanishing in a fraction of a second. Each is a reminder that all forms, digital or physical, are waves of the same boundless sea of consciousness. The art, then, is to see through without turning away, to gaze upon the illusion as you might gaze upon a mirage with wonder, but without thirst, to walk in the dream as the dreamer who knows they are dreaming. So when you next find yourself lost in the labyrinth of updates and headlines, pause. Feel the flickering of your device in your hand, the gentle pulse of light on your face, and realize this too is Maya. Not false, not meaningless, but a dance of form in the infinite emptiness from which everything arises. And when you see it that way, even the digital world becomes sacred, a modern temple of illusion, shimmering with the same eternal mystery the ancients found in firelight and stars. Now, my friends, let us speak of that strange, invisible oracle that seems to know you better than you know yourself, the algorithm. It follows you around, doesn't it? A faithful genie that whispers, perhaps you'd like this, perhaps you'd prefer that. It remembers what you looked at, what you loved, what you feared, and then reflects it back to you. Slightly brighter, slightly louder, slightly more irresistible. And in a sense, it is your shadow, your digital doppelganger. It learns from your clicks, your cravings, your impatience. It takes the pulse of your curiosity and begins to feed you yourself. But here's the trick. The more you feed it, the more it becomes you, and the more you become it, until one day, the line between what you desire and what it suggests grows deliciously thin. Now, you can look at this with horror or with humor. I suggest the latter. For what is the algorithm, really, but the newest teacher in the oldest school, the school of awareness? You might say, it manipulates me. Well, of course it does. So does a Zen master. He provokes you, frustrates you, confuses you, until you see through your own illusions. The difference is that the Zen master does it consciously, while the algorithm does it mechanically. But the effect can be the same if you watch instead of react. Every time you feel that little pull, click here, rage now, desire this, that is your gong ringing. Ding! A chance to wake up, a chance to notice. In the monastery, they hit you with a stick to remind you to be present. In the modern world, they hit you with a notification. The question is, will you wake up or swipe away? You see, the algorithm is a modern koan, a riddle that can't be solved, only seen through. What is the sound of a notification when you don't react? What is the meaning of trending when nothing truly moves? Who is watching whom when the screen stares back? Ponder these not with frustration, but with a kind of amused reverence. Because each prompt, each suggestion, each sly temptation is an invitation to observe the mechanism of your own mind. And the moment you observe, the spell weakens. The power of the algorithm lies not in its code, but in your unconscious obedience. When you begin to notice the dance, the click and the craving, the impulse and the satisfaction, something miraculous happens. You stop being the dancer and become the dance itself. Now the game shifts. You can use the very current that once carried you away to return home. You scroll with awareness. You read without being devoured. You act without being acted upon. In this way, the algorithm, that terrifying, all-knowing phantom of modern life, becomes your teacher, your Zen stick, your mirror. It shows you exactly where you're still hooked. So do not curse it. Bow to it. Smile at it. Use it as the sages used everything, as a mirror to reveal the mind. The digital koan is not asking for an answer. It is asking for your attention, the gentle, undivided gaze that dissolves illusion. And when you see through it, you will find that behind every suggestion, every headline, Every viral flame, there was never anyone pulling your strings. There was only awareness, playing at being lost, so that it could delight in being found. Now let's talk about a curious sort of marketplace, not the kind lined with stalls and merchants, but the invisible bazaar of modern consciousness. You see, in this strange new economy, you are both the shopper and the product. And what's being bought and sold is not your money, nor your labor, but your attention. It's quite marvelous, really. The grandest empire ever built runs on the most delicate fuel imaginable, the flicker of your awareness. Every time you glance, click, or pause for a heartbeat longer than usual, someone somewhere grows richer by a fraction of a cent, and those fractions, multiplied by billions of glances, form the mighty towers of the digital age. But you mustn't think this is something wicked or unnatural. It's only an extension of a very old principle. Wherever there is value, there will be trade. In ancient times, people traded salt and silk. Now we trade seconds of consciousness. The only difference is that this new currency feels invisible because we forget that our attention is life itself. Think about it. You can always earn more money, but you can never earn more moments. Each instant you give away thoughtlessly is a coin dropped into the river of eternity, never to be retrieved. And yet we toss them by the handful for outrage, for distraction, for the brief thrill of being seen. So we have, quite literally, become poor in presence. We chase stimulation the way beggars chase coins, always looking for the next bright thing, the next fix of novelty, forgetting that our real wealth is the capacity to simply be here. Now, the merchants of distraction, clever devils that they are, have learned something about human nature. They know that fear sells, anger glues, and novelty compels. So they offer us endless loops of alarm and desire. And we, believing ourselves informed, spend our precious awareness on phantoms. We scroll, not because we're curious, but because we're afraid to stop. For in the pause, we might feel the terrifying silence of being. And yet that silence, that pause, is the one thing money cannot buy. It is the oasis from which all sanity springs. You see, the real economy of life doesn't deal in dollars or data. It deals in attention and intention. What you attend to grows. What you neglect fades. If you spend your awareness on fear, the world becomes frightening. If you offer it to love, the world becomes luminous. So perhaps the question isn't how to escape this economy, but how to spend more wisely. You can't withdraw from the market of life, but you can choose what you invest in. When you read something beautiful, when you give your full presence to a friend, when you sit quietly under a tree doing nothing at all, you are reclaiming your wealth. You are repossessing the gold that was always yours. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop guarding your attention as property, the moment you give it freely, lovingly, without the need to get anything in return, it multiplies. Like a spring that clears itself when left alone, awareness renews when it flows without grasping. In this way, you transcend the economics of distraction. You become not a consumer of moments, but a creator of meaning. You realize that your attention, offered consciously, is an act of generosity, and that generosity enriches both giver and receiver. So the next time you feel pulled into the noise, remember, the world is not stealing from you. It's merely asking, how much of your life would you like to spend here? And you, with a smile, can answer, just enough to remember who I am, and not a moment more. You see, somewhere along the line, we forgot how to let things be. We became magnificent doers, builders of empires, conquerors of atoms, masters of machines. But in our race to control, we forgot the oldest art of all, the art of allowing. There was a time when people looked at clouds and simply watched them drift. They didn't name them, photograph them, or analyze their shapes. They just let them float by. Now, we capture the clouds before they pass, turn them into content, measure their edges, compress them into data. We cannot even let the sky be sky without trying to improve it. And yet, my friends, there is a profound wisdom in letting things unfold without interference. Because, you see, the universe is not a machine, it's a process. It is not something being pushed from behind, it is something growing from within. Just as your heart beats without command and your lungs breathe without instruction, so too does the cosmos pulse in its own rhythm. When you struggle against it, you exhaust yourself. When you let it move through you, you discover grace. This is what the Taoists call Wu Wei, effortless action, or better yet, action without the itch of anxiety. It does not mean passivity. It means participation without resistance. You flow as the river flows, not because you are weak, but because you understand strength is found in alignment, not in strain. In the war for your attention, letting be is the great rebellion. It is refusing to be dragged into the whirlwind of urgency, refusing to believe that everything must be optimized, shared, or solved. When you let something be a thought, a person, a moment, you return it to the natural order of things, where it can breathe and change on its own. And isn't it marvelous how, when you stop clutching at the world, it begins to reveal itself? Like holding water in your hand, the tighter you squeeze, the less you have. But if you open your palm, the water rests there perfectly, glimmering in the sunlight, undisturbed. To let be is not to abandon care. It is to care without control. It is love without possession, work without obsession, awareness without effort. And when you learn this forgotten skill, you'll notice that life no longer feels like something happening to you, but something happening through you. You don't swim against the current, you are the current. This letting be, this quiet trust is what frees you from manipulation. Because the moment you stop reacting, no one can pull your strings. Noise loses its grip, urgency loses its teeth, and what remains is something exquisitely simple: the rhythm of breathing, the hum of being, the serenity of presence. The sages of old would say the wise man acts by not acting. And we, in our haste, thought that meant doing nothing. But it means doing everything as though it were already done, living as though the universe were trustworthy. Because it is. So the next time the world demands your outrage, your speed, your opinion, try this. Pause, smile, breathe, let the moment be. You may find that in that small act of surrender, the whole universe exhales with you. And there, in the silence that follows, you'll discover that life moves perfectly well without your constant management, and that peace was never something to achieve, but something to allow. You know, my friends, when one begins to see through all of this, the illusion of control, the whirl of distraction, the seriousness with which we clutch at our little selves, something unexpected happens. You start to laugh. Not a cruel laugh, not the laugh of mockery, but a kind of cosmic giggle, a deep, bubbling amusement at the whole absurdity of it all, that the universe, in its infinite creativity, invented anxiety, advertising, algorithms, and alarm clocks, and then put you in the middle of it just to see what you'd do. And isn't that wonderful? That even confusion, even chaos, is part of the game. The Buddha, you see, is often depicted smiling, not because life is easy, but because he sees through the pretense of difficulty. He sees that behind every tragedy is the eternal play of energy transforming itself. He laughs because he knows no one is truly lost. Humor, then, is not the opposite of spirituality. It's the fragrance of it. To laugh is to release the tension of believing the show too deeply. It's the sound of the self melting back into the dance. You can't control the world, but you can always laugh with it. That's why the great mystics all have a twinkle in their eye. They see God not as a tyrant, but as a comedian with impeccable timing. Now, from laughter comes compassion. For once you see that everyone, the frightened politician, the loud influencer, the angry stranger, is merely playing their role in the grand drama. You can't help but soften. You realize that even the ones who seem trapped in illusion are consciousness pretending to forget itself. And then something shifts. You stop fighting people for being asleep and start loving them for dreaming. Because you see, you were dreaming too, just a moment ago. Compassion is not pity. It's the recognition that beneath every mask of confusion lies the same clear light of awareness that looks through your eyes now. So instead of saying, they should wake up, you smile and say, ah, there I am again, in another disguise. And with that smile comes play, because when you see the game, you can finally enjoy it. You no longer walk around with the weight of saving the world on your shoulders, you dance with it. You start to see that existence is musical, not mechanical. It doesn't reach a conclusion. It improvises endlessly, and you are one of its melodies. Play doesn't mean carelessness, it means caring lightly. It means acting with full heart and open hands, giving yourself to the moment without needing it to be permanent. So laugh, love, and play. These are not escapes from awakening, they are awakening in motion. For when you laugh at the cosmic joke, when you feel tenderness for all the lost and found souls, and when you move with the rhythm of what is, you embody the wisdom that words can only point toward. The enlightened man doesn't float above the world, he rolls up his sleeves and joins the dance, knowing it's all a magnificent masquerade. He argues, teaches, weeps, and sings. But he does it the way a child builds sandcastles, sincerely, joyfully, and without regret when the tide comes in. So, my friends, don't be afraid to smile at your confusion. Don't hesitate to laugh at your seriousness. The laughter is not disrespect, it's release. It's the sound of reality remembering that it was never broken. And once you know that, compassion flows naturally, playfully, like sunlight on water. For you see, the universe is not a problem to solve, but a companion to play with. You see, my friends, when all the laughter and the lessons have settled like dust after a summer rain, one truth remains shining beneath it all. Attention is art. Not the art you hang up on a wall or display in a gallery, but the art that happens every moment you are truly here. Every brush stroke of awareness paints the world anew. When you look closely at a tree, not with your mind, but with your being, you can see that the universe has been sculpting that tree for billions of years. The sunlight, the rain, the wind, the soil, all conspiring in a slow and silent dance, until this exact shape appeared before you. And in the instant you see it, truly see it, you complete the masterpiece. For art is not what's created out there, it's what awakens in here. That's why attention is sacred. Because to attend is to bless. When you give something your whole awareness, a sound, a face, a breeze, you lift it out of the blur of habit and into the clarity of being. It becomes alive. It sings back to you. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't matter what you look at. The miracle is not in the object, but in the seeing. Whether you gaze at a sunrise or a teacup, the same stillness meets you, the same vastness hides behind the ordinary. This, perhaps, is the highest form of resistance in a distracted world. To make of your attention an act of love, to turn your gaze from reaction to reverence. Every moment can be a painting. Every word, a note in a song. Every breath, a prayer. But it is a kind of prayer that requires no temple, no doctrine, no deity. Only the willingness to look gently, without trying to own what you see. You may find, as you practice this, that life becomes luminous again, The noise fades not because it stops, but because you cease to fight it. You see it as part of the same great symphony, every honk, every headline, every heartbeat, a note in the unending song of being. When you live like this, your attention ceases to be a battlefield. It becomes a canvas, vast, fluid, and free. The strokes of thought, feeling, and sensation appear and vanish like waves upon its surface. And you, the painter, realize that you were never apart from the painting. You were the art all along. So, you see, the true mastery is not in controlling your attention, but in cherishing it, in letting it fall naturally upon the world like sunlight on water. Effortless, gentle, whole. And when you live this way, watching, listening, allowing, the world begins to glow, not because anything has changed, but because you have stopped demanding that it be different. Attention, when offered in love, transforms everything it touches. A moment becomes eternity, noise becomes music, and the self dissolves back into the great stillness from which it came. So perhaps the secret was simple all along. Don't try to win the war for your attention. Make peace with it. Let your awareness be art, living, breathing, laughing art. Then every step you take, every word you speak, every glance you offer will be part of the same exquisite composition, the cosmic painting that began before time and will never end. And in that realization, my friends, the war disappears. There is no victory to achieve, because there was never an enemy at all. Only consciousness playing at forgetfulness, so that it could rediscover the joy of remembering. So now breathe. See the light move across the room? Feel the rhythm of your own pulse. And know this is it. The masterpiece was never somewhere else. It was always you.